Welcome back, everybody, and I just want to explore something a little further with you, Peter, because I find this quite fascinating. Bacon talks about 4 levels of consciousness. So I was wondering if you could illuminate us a little bit about each of them. The first, he talks about that the first level of consciousness is physics, or the physical level, material, which I think we all probably relate to quite well. That's self-explanatory. Then it's physics efficient. What does that mean?
It's that level. It's almost physical, but not quite.
Yes.
And some people call that the dense etheric.
Mm.
And so, like, if I look at you, I see your physical form.
Yeah.
But if I tune a little bit more and allow my vision to see, I then see a radiation coming out from you. So every human being who lives in their body will have a radiation of life force.
Yes.
Which some people might call magnetic, electromagnetic.
Or the aura.
And it's one level of the aura.
Yeah.
And it sticks out about 1 inch or 2 inches from the physical body. Like if you're healthy, it's like tiny blue filaments of light, like blue hairs.
Yeah.
And if people get sick, then it starts to, the beautiful blue colour starts to go brown or red if it's severe illness.
Yeah.
And so one can see patches of that in people who are ill. But it's called the electromagnetic aura or the dense etheric aura. That's the usual words for it.
But Bacon acknowledges this.
Yes, acknowledges that. So it has a level of laws of its own, because he wants us to find the laws, the physical laws, about the physical body, physical nature, and so on. But then he wants us to look at the laws of the higher levels, and it all to do with consciousness.
Yes.
So to tune in to see that particular aura of you, I have to get to that level of consciousness to see it.
So we can train ourselves there. It's training our consciousness. Yeah, it's not training the intellectual mind.
No, it's
which is what I think a lot of people think they need to do.
That's all based on what I found out for myself, but it's also from teachings of Jesus, but also teachings of Bacon, his method.
Yeah.
You've got to have an empathy, you've got to love the other person, have a rapport.
Yeah.
And so it builds up an intuition, and then an inspiration comes then.
Yeah.
And then you hear it speaking to you, and then that voice, inner voice, produces the vision in the mind.
Yeah. And
then you use your rational mind to think about that and work it out. What does this mean, and so on like that.
Yeah.
It all starts with this intuitive rapport, being in tune. That's being in tune with another person or whatever.
Yeah, the world around you.
Yeah.
And we've come a long way out of that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we are getting back there. So that's the first 2 levels, and the first 2 levels of consciousness he talks about are very much physical. Yeah. He then talks about 2 levels of metaphysical. First we have the formal and then the final. So metaphysical levels of consciousness.
Yeah. These are really those levels connected with the mind, which is the soul. In those days, soul, mind and soul were the same thing. Yeah. And they still are. I mean, the human soul is a mind.
Yeah.
And it can live in a body,
yeah,
physical and a dense etheric body, or we can live without it.
Yes.
You know, that's the point. And modern science at last is beginning to prove this, having dismissed this idea for a few hundred years. But it is so. That's what all the ancient teachings always said. We have a soul which is distinct from our body.
Yeah.
So our body is like the vehicle we drive. Our soul drives our car, which is our body.
Yeah. And then it swaps it in.
Yeah.
Like we go and get a new car.
Get a new car. So these metaphysical levels are the level of the true soul, the true mind. And he sees 2 distinct levels. And he says we need to understand the laws of each level. Now the laws are the divine thought forms, divine ideas, also called the intelligences or angels.
Yeah.
So Bacon uses the Platonic word form for it, but that's a thought form.
Yes.
And the biblical term for that is angel, thought of God. or the idea of God. They're thought forms.
Yes.
All thoughts have a form,
Form, yeah.
and that's what angels are.
Mm.
They're also called intelligences, which is the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And these are the laws.
Mm.
And the thing is, they all form is based on mathematics, or it can be understood through mathematics, because all form has geometry in it and a number.
Yeah.
Numbers proportion,
Mm.
and these are the laws,
Yeah.
and they produce. There are the simpler laws, which are the highest laws.
Yes. Mm.
But then they produce a multitude of complicated ones.
Yes, yes.
Developments of it from it. And so his aim was to get to the highest, simplest ones,
Yeah.
which if you put into words, you just say God is love.
Mm.
But when you think about it, that's just too simple, isn't it?
Unfortunately.
We need to know all the different aspects of love, and what does love really mean?
And who is God?
Yeah, so that's where you get
Yeah.
what you could call number one. Suddenly
Mm.
becomes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then multiples of that, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
and then all these complicated.
Yes. And much like, within the tree of life, it leads you down from that primary point, and you come down and you bunk,
Yes.
and down into this creation. And here we are, we've made everything so complex and so multi-layered, and so we tie ourselves in knots with our understanding and argue every which way about things. But then really we need to be working our way back up to find that simplicity again.
That's right.
Having explored all of these many options. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the tree of life, and that's the Kabbalistic tree of life, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And Bacon was a master of Kabbalah.
Mm.
He knew it through and through. So all his work has the Kabbalah behind it.
Yes.
He's both teaching this. He's both using it and teaching it.
Yeah.
In how he works. And the tree of life is a geometric figure, but it's the sort of geometry you find in nature.
Yes.
It's fundamental geometry, an archetype,
yes.
if you like. And at certain key points in it, where the crossing points of the circles and the centres are, these are given numbers, which in Hebrew are called sephiroth, or each one is a sephirah.
Yeah.
We get our word cipher from that. So cipher refers to the number, but all number goes with geometry. You can't really separate number and geometry; they go together, and that gives you all the proportions of how we're made up. Human being is largely fivefold geometry.
Yes.
Um,
And everybody knows, the picture of the Da Vinci, the Truvia Man, I think it's called, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's why the rose is such a simple symbol of us, because the rose is based on fivefold geometry. There's also other types of geometry too, but all geometry is based on circles interpenetrating and doing other things, and producing triangles and whatnot. So these are the forms. These are the forms. That form is geometry and number.
Yeah.
And so that Bacon was. He refers to mathematics, but he doesn't talk much about it. He says it's a metaphysical science, probably the highest we have to look into these things. So therefore, I'm not going to talk too much about it.
Bless him.
But he uses it all the time.
Yes.
And once one's realised that, you start seeing what he's done in the printed books, for instance, but not just books under his name, also the Shakespeare folio and the sonnets and so on like that, all being published. They're very carefully set up mathematically, so that you can find in it geometry and number or cipher.
Yes.
Over and over again, many times, that actually suddenly start revealing you.
So this is where you have to go back to the original printed folios.
Yes.
It's not in your modern Penguin Classic or whatever.
No, because he and his Rosicrucian group, they set out to preserve the wisdom that was known, being passed on, so that it wouldn't be lost during these few centuries of materialism.
Yeah. And I know you've done some work, and there are people who are doing work in trying to find that within the original.
yeah, there's been some wonderful breakthroughs just in recent years.
Yeah.
And I refer to them, to some, they don't all want to be known yet
Yes.
publicly, but I refer to some of them
Yes.
on my website, FBRT website.
Yeah, wonderful. So that's where people can get the latest.
Yeah.
So to summarise the law?
To summarise the law.
To summarise the law.
Oh, what Bacon calls
Because
the
this
summary law.
The summary law.
Yeah, the supreme law, summary law, sums up all the others. He said is love. But by that he meant also, he took a quote from the Bible, the work that God works from beginning to end. So in other words, he's saying it's love in action.
Yes.
It's a labour of love, which of
Yeah.
course is the title of one of the Shakespeare plays, Love's Labour's Lost.
Yes.
We've lost it.
Yeah.
And in Freemasonry that's called the lost word.
Yeah.
The truth is the labour of love.
Mm.
Love, that's God. But we've lost it, we've got to find it.
Yes.
And we find it by practicing it. You know.
Yeah. So we just come back to love God
Yeah.
and love one another.
Yeah. That's it.
Why is it so difficult?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people do this. It's just the when it's not done and it goes glaringly wrong, then we have the awful things happening as well.
Yes. Yeah. But again, I mean, it's a process of raising consciousness, and I think as more and more people become conscious and become awake and aware, then having the understanding of something like this starts to speed the process up.
Yeah, and the stories in the myths, you know, like the Dionysian myth, the you know, even Zagreus is attacked, and anything that's not good enough or is impure is torn away.
Yes.
And that's what the Shakespeare play shows. If you don't get things right, if you do things wrong, eventually it leads to destruction.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, in the alchemy, it's one stage where we're not doing things right at all. You get the stage where the two dragons fight each other to the death, and they destroy each other, and then they make up this soup out of which something good is then born.
Yeah.
So there's always the hope. And in initiation, only a little bit is taken away because most of you are pure.
Yeah.
But you're rescued. Your good part is always rescued out of the destruction that's not good.
And I think that is something maybe we need to bear in mind at this particular point.
Yeah,
we live in a chaotic world at the moment, and very many people are frightened.
Yes.
I think there's a message in that.
There's a good message. I mean, that's the hope. Hang on to that. Like Jesus said, don't lose your faith. Just there will be wars and rumours of wars. Be not afraid.
Yes.
You just get on and do the best you can in a good way.
Yeah. Focus on love, not fear.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thanks, Sarah.